where games get localized away from being anime games in the West, which was very common in like the early 2000s. These are the same game. I think it's like a Ubisoft published game or something. More weeb content. Always weeb content.
The process of localizing a game has its...
We love localizers. The Imagine games were anime? Oh, he knows the game! Okay, this is gonna make it good then.
Its fair share of obstacles, especially in the form of marketing. How do you take a game that was already niche to begin with in Japan and try to make it a success in Western territories? Some Western publishers took that question a bit too far for fear...
And they made it the most there are so many games where if you look at the American cover versus the Japanese cover, the American cover ends up being the most generic looking fantasy bullshit you'll ever see.
Of not making enough return on their investment, and you'll see how soon. Nowadays, that question isn't so threatening, because now we have more publishers who are...
Nowadays, you'll sometimes have name changes, but that's pretty much all you'll get. They're all marketed at a casual for girls generic game. Yeah.
Serious about maintaining a game's identity, especially publishers who simply opened Western branches of their own company. Plus, every niche genre has fans who are constantly in the...
You should see the fat Mega... Yeah, Mega Man's a good example. Yeah. Yeah, this is exactly what I'm talking about. What was the original game called? Is it I think this is... Yeah, here we go. Here's the original. Okay, so here is the fantastic Japanese art. Look at it. It's great. It's cute. You know, like, you see all the characters. Like, you know, if you play the game, you're like, I recognize all of these guys by the end of it. That's cool. What the fuck is this? It looks like it was drawn with a pencil. But, like, not well. I don't know how any of this terrain works. Let me see if I can find another example. Oh my god, look at this fucking figure as well. Look. What is this thing? That is awful. Yeah. So, welcome to really old video game marketing.
No. And viral marketing can potentially turn a niche game into an overnight success. Social media has been a big boon for more obscure titles that way. For example, viral social media posts is how Yakuza 0 was able to explode in popularity.
I'm happy that Yakuza 0 did become popular. Because there was, like, you've probably heard the story before, but there was a chance that the Yakuza series was going to stop getting localized.
The clip of Kiryu meeting Nugget the chicken and then hiring the animal to be a realtor was the first domino that fell, which helped turn Like a Dragon into a successful IP and one of Sega's most important franchises in the West, to the point where they consider it as important to them as Persona and Sonic the Hedgehog. Unfortunately, though, that safety net wasn't always there. game industry marketing is fairly often perceived as a regular villain, particularly when they're given power over the actual developers. From awful trailers to straight up trying to force the studio to add some marketable aspects to their game, usually multiplayer, the marketing team for a big publisher is sometimes seen as pure...
Yeah, I love all of the... You go back to the PS3, all of the games that had multiplayer modes for no fucking reason. Like, there was nothing being added to the game from the multiplayer, nothing beneficial from it. It was just there. I'm going to give a long speech on localizing Pokemon. When Brock eats an onigiri in English dubbing, it's translated as a jelly donut. And then Hindi language also called a jelly donut, which was very weird because it was a rice ball. Confused me since Doraemon called it a rice ball because Doraemon got a direct translation. Also, a rice ball... Like, okay, if we're talking... I don't know if like a concept similar to a rice ball exists in... I assume if you're saying Hindi, you're from India. I don't know if a concept similar exists, but like you know what rice is, right? Like you understand the concept of rice. So a rice ball like logically makes sense. The idea with the 4Kids rice ball thing is American kids are too stupid and have no idea what rice is. Like that's why they translated it like that.
Or interference, a roadblock to creative vision, and sometimes even a roadblock to success, in spite of their purpose. Sometimes a publisher is so obsessed with marketing and it interferes.
Good morning,
so
how's it
deeply
going?
that
Welcome.
It straight up ruins a game's identity. Especially back in the days when some random Western company scoops up the license for a Japanese game they don't really care about, probably because it was cheap. There's a specific type of marketing-induced change.
Actually, a kind of good example, it's not the same thing, but a kind of similar example is what was done with early Final Fantasy, where they were released in a weird fucking order. Right? What was the original American release order of Final Fantasy? American release order Final Fantasy. Because I think like 6 or something... Didn't they like... Yeah, I'm pretty sure they reordered the games. Or skipped games? Something like that. Yeah, 146 is 123 in the US. Exactly, yeah, that's what I'm thinking of.
That regularly pops up and causes a discussion. Box art.
For like no reason, right? Like why would... Why?
We've seen the changes between Japanese and North American box art before. Changes from a beautiful but gloomy and strangely liminal landscape to an awkward
What do you... Again, this is another one of those things where American kids are too fucking stupid and will not understand what's going on unless you make it really fucking obvious. The Shadowrun was never part of the series or franchise, only added by 4Kids. Wait, what? Yeah, I was gonna say, because that's like, the term Shadowrun was mentioned both way earlier and way, way, way more often than in the okay, that makes sense. Not that good. How you doing? I'm doing fine today. I've got some ideas to fix up the stream, which I might come back for a stream afterwards to mess around with. US kids, what is rice? Is that a new corn product? Yeah, exactly.
Close-up of the main character, or happy Kirby to angry Kirby. These changes,
for no reason,
whether they're big or small, are made to maximize the appeal to the audience of a particular region at a glance. Sometimes they might work, but what if the box art changes go too far? Or rather, what if changing the box art isn't all that they do? What if the North American publisher of a Japanese game tried to completely obfuscate the outward identity of a game so that it was impossible to tell just from looking at it that it was Japanese? That might sound like complete overkill, right?
Yep.
But
But it happens.
happened. Now, this isn't to say that changing a game in the overseas release is a recent concept. It happened plenty of times back in the NES days too. Sometimes it was the Japanese publisher doing it to their own games. Probably the most famous example is Super Mario Bros. 2,
Right.
which was originally a game called Yume Kojo Doki Doki Panic, created with
Okay.
the specific purpose of promoting Yume Kojo 87, a special television event sponsored by Fuji TV to market a slew of new media they were releasing at the time.
Right.
The first sequel to Super Mario Bros. Was supposed to be The Lost Levels, but it was deemed too similar to the first game and too difficult for Western players. So Nintendo simply grabbed Doki Doki Panic
I do like that idea. Again, it's the American kids are too fucking stupid to play your game.
and gave it the visual and mechanical changes necessary for it to be a proper Mario game. Or
I had
as
no idea about this one.
proper as they could get it without completely remaking it.
Uh-huh.
Another example of this is Alex Kidd High Tech World for the Sega
Okay, I do know. Okay, and I know this game. What the hell? What did they do to it?
Master System, which was originally an Anmitsuhime game released in 1987 before it was reworked into an Alex Kidd title and
I had no idea about that one. Okay.
released overseas in 1989. But those examples are a bit less extreme because they were still published overseas by Nintendo and Sega themselves.
Right,
respectively.
right.
There was no shady middleman here.
Sure, sure.
Sadly, I can't say the same for other games. You would think this practice would grow rarer as time went on, but it persisted another 20 or so years, especially with changes made in order to try and distance the game
And now you have fun changes like translating things incorrectly because you want to make it appeal to American sensibilities. That's great. I like that.
from its
It never
Japanese
stops.
origins, at least on the surface. You wouldn't really be able to tell the game was made by a Japanese studio until you started the game, or at least saw a bunch of Japanese names in the credits.
Right.
So, what were these later games? Let's start with what are probably the most famous examples for this era. Mobile Light Force 1 and 2 for the PlayStation 1 and PlayStation 2
Right.
respectively. These games were published outside of Japan by XS Games, and you can
I love how they've made it this like Charlie's Angels sort of thing here. Like, they really want this to be like an American looking game.
already tell just by looking at the cover art and realizing they are literally the same picture with a slight shift in color tint, this is going to be a doozy. Just from these covers, you would assume the games are about some badass Charlie's Angels
Yeah, you'd think it's like a... kind of like the Rambo game.
like Femme Fatales or something, but no, they're not that at all. Not by a long shot. Mobile Light Force 1 is actually a vertically scrolling shoot-'em-up called Gunbird, developed by Saikyo.
What you're seeing on screen is the PC version. So this is the cover art for this. Like, they didn't even try. They just made a weird cover for it. And it's like, you play the game, and it's like, oh, now you're a magical girl. Enjoy.
Who also published the game in Japan. The game first released in Japanese arcades back in 1994, followed by a Japanese Sega Saturn and PS1 release in 95. The game wouldn't be brought to overseas home consoles until 2003, when it was
Right.
crudely localized, and I use that term very lightly, as Mobile Light Force.
Right.
For anyone not familiar with this whole situation, you may assume that Mobile Light Force 2 must be Gunbird 2 then, right?
Yeah.
Well, no, it isn't. The sequel, Mobile Light Force 2, is actually Castle of Shikigami.
It's a... what? 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 Wait, what?
Another shoot 'em up developed by Alpha System
Uh-huh.
and originally published in Japan by Taito.
There's the
It
damn
first
butterfly
released in
again.
Japanese arcades in 2001, and
Those
Excess
Westerners won't notice. Well, no, this is different. This is a Western studio buying the license to a Japanese title.
straight up removing the entire story of both games.
What? 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 Wait, what do you mean removing the story? We good now? Yes?
They weren't. Even worse, Excess Games tried to hide this fact by straight up removing the entire story of both games on top of also removing some game modes. Not only were these games from different franchises,
What?
they weren't even made by the same studio or even published by the same company in their native country of Japan.
So they're just two completely unrelated games in the same genre. They have nothing to do with each other.
And of course, people who bought these games weren't even convinced by any of this deception, because any fan of shoot 'em ups worth their salt would have kept up with the news and known what these games actually were. Even if they didn't, it was clear that their actual content did not match the box art. This isn't even the only time Excess Games did this.
Oh my
They
God.
somewhat changed the identities of other games, such as Jigsaw Island Japan Graffiti to Jigsaw Madness.
The, publishers in the early 2000s really fucking hated anime. They really wanted these Japanese games, but wanted nothing to do with anime.
And Prismland Story to Sorcerer's Maze. These were pretty bad too.
This is the most See, this is what I'm talking about with these super generic American fantasy covers. What is this? What am I looking at? What the fuck is... Why does this dude have a set of headphones on? Why is she over here doing some fucking... whatever it is? Why is he doing crystal shit? What am I looking at?
But the whole Mobile Light Force debacle was by far their most egregious modifications. And to make things even more confusing, Excess Games would go on to publish Castle of Shikigami 2 in North America with its proper title.
Okay.
Dropping the ridiculous Mobile Light Force name.
It shifted to live action shit. They're still doing it a different way. You are very correct there. Yes, now they're just making Kakegurui.
One game too late. Castle of Shikigami 1 and 2 have nothing to do with Gunbird,
Right.
but thanks to their weird attempt at localization, it's flipped around so that,
Wait, it was an Atlas game. Okay.
based on appearance, Mobile Light Force 1 and 2 have nothing to do with Castle of Shikigami 2. So in the West, it's a sequel to nothing.
I need to watch the DMC series, but yes, I will, I do need to watch, I will watch Kakegurui, for sure.
Pretty head scratching. Now it still doesn't stop there. There's more instances where Japanese games get a ridiculous makeover, presumably in an effort to make them look more appealing to whatever their target demographic is in the West. I understand why this might seem like a necessity for some games, but more often than
I don't
not,
think it
the
is for anything.
execution ends up making the game look like
If you can't localize the, like, if you can't bring the game to the West without changing everything, just don't do it. Just don't do it.
generic shovelware slapped together in a week. If you want some examples of this, then look no further than the Imagine series by Ubisoft. Yes, Ubisoft contributed to this weird trend. Shocker. In case you never stumbled upon this series before, Ubisoft's line of Imagine titles were primarily on the DS and 3DS handhelds, aimed at young girls between the ages of 6 and 14.
Right.
From what I can tell, most games in the series were made by Western developers, some of whom were working in-house at Ubisoft.
Okay.
However, a few specific titles were actually Japanese otome games that
Have I watched Lane? I have not watched Lane, but it is definitely on the list of things I need to.
Ubisoft snatched up a license for and then put a generic-looking paper bag over their heads. Now, I don't know about you, but based on what I've seen over the last 10 years or so, there's definitely been some semblance of a trend of teenage to young adult women just naturally gravitating towards games of this nature without the need for this weird genericization. But hey, I don't deny the possibility that these games probably opened the eyes of some curious girl somewhere.
Sure.
First game I'll discuss here is Imagine Figure Skater, which was originally released in Japan as part of the Kuru Kuru Princess series in March 2000.
No, there's no girl that's 6 to 14 in America that would like this. No, we have to change the marketing. This will not appeal to girls between 6 to 14. Not at all. Another example of nonsense localization. What do we have here? Oh, I didn't know that, actually. I was not aware of these ones. M. Bison, Balrog, what? Wait. Wait. What? Wait, why would you do that? So it's... what? For what reason? You didn't change the names. Okay, sure.
2007. It was developed by Spike, who would later merge with Chunsoft to create, well,
Spike Chunsoft. Yeah.
As you might expect, the game is about taking control of a young figure skater trying to make it into the particularly huge revelation in the genre of RPG sports games, but it's very digestible and lighthearted entertainment. I'm sure there's a few girls who had the path to otome.
Drop again? Maybe. Did it? It's getting worse. It gets worse as the stream goes on. We good? We're back? Yes. Are we back? Yeah, we're back. Cool.
In the genre of RPG sports games, but it's very digestible and lighthearted entertainment. I'm sure there's a few girls who had the path to otome games unlocked before them thanks to this title. Figure Skater would soon receive a sequel called Imagine Ice Champions.
Is that the baseball game? I feel like that is that why don't other channels die as often as yours? I don't know. Yeah, fighting baseball for Super Famicom. Some Japanese guy had to come up with a whole league of fake American names. Sleeve McDickle. Onson Sweeney. Daryl Archideld. Anatoly Smorin. Ray McScriff. Glenn Allen Mixon. Mario McCrowlin. Raul Chemgelane, Kevin Nagilny, Tony Schmeckett, Bobson Dugnut, Willie Dustus.
Originally released in Japan as another Kuru Kuru Princess game in December 2007, but it wouldn't make its way west until February 2009. The next game of the Imagine series I'm going to touch on is Imagine Makeup Artist.
Imagine Dragons.
Originally released in Japan as Cosmetic Paradise Meiku no Kiseki in July.
No American girl 6 to 14 is gonna look at this and think this looks appealing. Zero. None of them.
2008. This was developed by Global A.
Wait, I'm sorry, what?
Kiseki in July 2008.
When did Sailor Moon get a dub? What year did Sailor Moon's dub come out? Wasn't it the 90s? Let me see. Um, 95. Yeah, 95. I feel like with Sailor Moon doing well, I don't know, maybe you don't need to hide that it's anime anymore. 20 years after fucking Sailor Moon comes out.
This was developed by Global A Entertainment, a studio that was quite small but managed to pump out multiple games a year. As far as I can tell, they were never larger than maybe a few dozen employees. It hit the West
2008? Yeah, in 2008 there definitely were. Yeah. Haruhi came out in 2006. Hold on, let me just check one thing. History of Avcon. Here we go. This is my local anime convention. When was their first Avcon? The first Avcon, okay, this is a tiny local convention, was in 2002. So I think there were people who watched anime in 2008.
May 2009, and did not really take the region by storm. Makeup artist is what you're likely expecting. You play as a girl who offers top-tier makeup services, and depending on your client's wishes, you apply the respective makeup in the minigame. One thing that stands out in Makeup Artists, though, is the altered character designs. Figure Skater and Ice Champions did not seem to take many, if any, artistic liberties with how characters looked, but many characters in Makeup Artists were changed, especially the love interests.
Nothing ever fucking changes. Nothing changes. Oh my god. It's enough. You want to talk about people race swapping stuff in 2025? I don't Man, I love this. Another stream blip. Did the stream actually die again? No? Yes? You back? Race swapping the Kakagurui. Do you not remember that? They made the main male character. They race swapped the main male character.
They were all made to look decidedly less anime because
this guy right here, they race swapped him for no reason. In 2008, they were still race swapping. I don't know why. Just why the redesigns? Why the redesigns? They did not need to be here. There was no reason for this.
Of course. And the last game in the Imagine series I'm going to touch on is Imagine Ballet Dancer, another title developed by Spike. This one has the unique distinction, however, of releasing in North America a month before Japan in November, then December of 2008. In Japan, it's titled Princess Ballerina, The Four Dreamy Prima Donnas, or Dreaming Prima Donnas. My Japanese is still pretty bad. It's got the same basic premise as the ice skating games, but with ballet instead. Pretty simple.
Sure.
Now, drastic identity obfuscating localization like these games are much rarer now, but it was an issue that went under the radar for a while. In the case of Ubisoft's Imagine series, it's mostly the genericization that makes the product look bad. I understand the visual change to hopefully appeal to young Western girls,
I don't.
but strictly looking at the
I don't at all.
uninspiring covers, No one would be blamed for...
This is so much worse. Again, Sailor Moon, Card Captor. This is...
thinking these games were Ninja Bread Man level shovelware. In the case of XS Games and their treatment of Gunbird and Castle of Shikigami, however,
Heyo, Mr. Brodie, how's it going?
To tie two completely unrelated games together was a very
What
poor
is this?
attempt at trying
This
to...
this is games that are actually anime games which got marketed in the West as not.
trick the consumer into doubling up on purchases. Because if a game and its supposed sequel came out at the same time, then maybe it's a better value to just get both, right? Strictly from a business perspective, I suppose it's understandable why they would do that, shadiness aside.
Sure.
But once you learn that they went so far as to completely gut the actual content of the game to hide the fact that they're not related at all, it goes from being a shrewd business decision to actively making the product worse and being downright disrespectful to the people who...
Yeah, my understanding is with Mega Man, they had the weird cover, but it was still Mega Man. Like, it was still Rockman. Like, there was nothing... They didn't break the game to hide what it was. Same with a lot of other things that got localized, like with a weird cover. Like, it's still the same game at its core. It's just like, let's give it an American cover.
Actually made it. It was a weird era of gaming for sure. Thankfully, since then, more Japanese publishers have either established their
Was there some stigma? I guess they thought it wouldn't sell well. I guess that would be the logic.
Branches in other countries, or created partnerships with Western publishers.
Sorry, what was that?
Branches in other countries, or...
Oh, sorry, I thought it said something completely different.
Created partnerships with Western publishers who hopefully take their work more seriously to avoid these weird and excessive liberties being taken with their games. In an online age where fans of any genre or franchise could easily find out about this stuff, it seems like a good idea to...
Yeah, this doesn't work anymore.
Not mess with the vision too much. This concludes
They'll still try
my
it, though,
video
with
on
translations.
secret Japanese games. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you around.
The Rock to Mega name swap wasn't that weird, just the art. Yeah. It was still the same game, though. So, like, it looks weird, but you're like, okay, this is just kind of funny. Now, what is this? This is discussing anime in the early 2000s. Oh, this is a really good video, by the way. You should go check out Mild Conviction. I'd never seen any of their videos before, but that was actually really good. I want to have a look at this other thing, and then we'll just head out for the day. I will be back afterwards for, like, a couple of few minute streams just to, like, try to see if I can get the Twitch stuff working again. I don't know why it ever broke, to be fair. But, yeah, we're back afterwards with that. What is this? Oh, it's 10 minutes long? When Serial Experiments Lane aired after 9/11. I will check this out tomorrow, because I do want to head out. But that will be on the list. Thank you. Oh, you said it in there as well. Yeah, that will be on the list then as well.